the courage to actually do something about it this time, because even once, it's unacceptable.
I don't know. I just felt like I was quitting. I felt like I felt like a failure, and I felt like the devil was wanting our marriage to fail, so I didn't want him to win.
From the outside, Samantha Keithley's life looked like a modern-day dream. A loving mother of 4, balancing careers in both real estate and hospitality, living in a beautiful new home with her husband, a decorated sheriff's deputy. But beneath that picture-perfect exterior, a silent storm was gathering. To understand Samantha's story, we have to go back. Samantha Dawn Styling was born on December 29, 1984, in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Her childhood was far from easy. When she was only 16, her world shattered. Her mother died after a painful battle with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Most teenagers would have been crushed under the weight of such grief. But Samantha didn't collapse. She stepped forward. Her younger brother, Taylor, remembers it clearly. Growing up together, we were best friends. Losing our mom so young, it changed everything. But Samantha became more than a sister. She was like a mother figure to me. She always put others before herself. That moment of loss defined who Samantha would become. Instead of withdrawing into her pain, she poured herself into protecting those around her. Her instinct to nurture and shield others became her defining trait. When the family later moved to Brandon, Florida, Samantha attended Bloomingdale High School. It was there she met her best friend, Kristen Kellen. The two were inseparable, sharing secrets, laughter, and all the milestones of teenage life. Kristen later said, "She was electric. Stunningly beautiful, yes, but it was her energy. She could light up a room." With Samantha, everything was an adventure. She made life fun. But Samantha's gift wasn't just her joy. It was her ability to see people, really see them, and make them feel valued. She wasn't the type to walk past a friend in need. She noticed. She stepped in. She lifted others up. Those who knew her would later say this was her superpower. She made everyone feel safe. By the time Samantha was in her 20s, these qualities had already shaped her into a remarkable young woman. She became the glue of her family, the protector of her brother, the loyal friend who stood by others when life got hard. That same drive carried into adulthood. At the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Tampa, where she worked for more than a decade, she wasn't just another employee. She worked her way up to assistant manager. Her colleagues described her as irreplaceable, dedicated, ambitious, but also deeply caring. She wasn't just there to do a job. She became family to those she worked with. One colleague, Rose, would later reveal how Samantha helped her escape an abusive relationship. "Sam told me, 'You are better than that. People love you. You're not alone. You need to get out.' She gave me the courage to walk away. She saved me." It's a haunting detail. Because Samantha, who devoted herself to saving others, couldn't ultimately save herself. Her story wasn't about weakness. It was about strength. An incredible strength that carried her through every chapter of her life. But as we'll see, sometimes even the strongest people, even the ones who save others, cannot see the danger closing in around them. In 2012, Samantha married Kirk Keithley. To the outside world, it seemed like the perfect match. A resilient, ambitious woman with a heart of gold, and a steady, disciplined man in uniform. A Hillsborough County sheriff's deputy, Kirk wore the badge that symbolized service, honor, and protection. For many, he looked like the ideal family man. Together, they blended their lives and families. Samantha brought her son Mark, who was just a child at the time. Kirk had a son of his own, Peyton, from a previous relationship. Soon, the couple welcomed 2 daughters, Olivia and little Alan. By 2018, the family of 6 was a picture of suburban stability. 2 working parents, 4 beautiful children, and a brand new home in Land O'Lakes, Florida. In February of that year, they purchased what many would call their forever home. A cream-colored, 2-story house on Terrazzo Way, nestled in a safe subdivision. The price tag, $322,000, reflected not just the financial security they had achieved, but also the dreams they had built together. This house was supposed to represent the culmination of their hard work. A safe neighborhood, good schools, parks for the children, a place where laughter would echo down the hallways and milestones would be celebrated. From the street, the Keithleys looked like the perfect family. The sheriff's deputy father, the hard-working mother juggling multiple careers, and the children riding their bikes in the driveway. Neighbors waved, children played, and on the surface, there were no cracks. But behind the walls of that house, not everything was as it seemed. Kirk Keithley had built a career in law enforcement spanning nearly 2 decades. He began at the St. Petersburg Police Department in 2003 before transferring to the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office in 2009. On paper, his career looked stable. He wore the uniform with quiet confidence, but co-workers described him as reserved, distant, and hard to read. Buried in his personnel records, though, were signs of something darker. In 2008, an evaluation noted that Kirk had an austere demeanor and recommended interpersonal skills training. In 2011, he received a letter of counseling for an avoidable traffic crash. In 2016, a formal reprimand was issued for misuse of communications equipment. Individually, these incidents might not raise alarms, but collectively, they painted a picture of a man who struggled with empathy, communication, and impulse control, qualities that, when paired with a badge and a gun, could become dangerous. Even Samantha's family noticed something was off. Her brother Taylor later recalled how Kirk seemed cold and standoffish at family dinners. "He gave you the feeling that he didn't want to get to know you," Taylor said. Neighbors, too, felt the tension. One longtime neighbor, Mike Griffith, described how friendly Samantha always was, unless Kirk was nearby. If he wasn't around, she would chat and smile. But the second he was there, she would just wave or give a quick hello. That detail, chilling in hindsight, suggests a pattern seen in many controlling relationships. Victims often adjust their behavior to avoid conflict, carefully managing their words and actions based on the abuser's mood. Griffith even tried introducing Kirk to another deputy, thinking the shared profession might help him open up. Instead, Kirk turned his back, shutting down the interaction entirely. It was another subtle sign of isolation, keeping Samantha from forming deeper social connections outside the home. But these signs were invisible to most. To outsiders, the Keithleys looked like any other suburban family chasing the American dream. There were no documented domestic violence calls to their home, no official reports, no flashing red lights. This is one of the most devastating aspects of domestic violence in law enforcement families. Officers know how the system works. They understand how investigations are handled. And, tragically, they often know how to avoid leaving evidence. For victims like Samantha, the barriers to seeking help are immense. How do you call the police when the person abusing you is the police? How do you confide in others when your abuser has spent years controlling your narrative, limiting your friendships, and convincing you that no one will believe you? To the outside world, Kirk was the protector. Inside his own home, he was becoming the threat. As Samantha's star continued to rise, balancing her casino career, pursuing real estate, and nurturing her 4 children, Kirk's grip on control seemed to tighten. And in September 2018, that fragile balance would finally shatter. September 29, 2018. It began like any other Saturday night inside the Keithley home. But before dawn broke the following morning, the lives of Samantha, her children, and her entire community would be forever changed. That day, Samantha had been busy, juggling work and family. She was known for pushing herself, often running on little sleep. But she always made time for her children. That evening, the house in Land O'Lakes was filled with the familiar rhythm of family life. Kids running around, laughter, the television humming in the background. But something was different with Kirk. His mood had been heavy, brooding. For weeks, Samantha had sensed an unsettling shift. His temper shorter, his presence colder. At around midnight, tensions boiled over. Exactly what sparked the fight that night remains unclear, but investigators later pieced together that an argument began between Samantha and Kirk. Neighbors would later recall hearing muffled shouting. Nothing that sounded like violence, just the kind of raised voices couples sometimes have. But inside, the situation was escalating rapidly. Samantha, ever the peacemaker, tried to defuse it. But Kirk's rage was mounting. Her 14-year-old son, Mark, noticed. He had grown up alongside Kirk and had seen disagreements before, but this night was different. His mother looked scared. In the early hours of September 30th, Samantha turned to the person she trusted most, her son. She whispered to him, voice shaking, "Go upstairs and lock the door." It was a chilling request, one that no teenager should ever hear from their mother. Mark obeyed, but his instincts told him something was terribly wrong. From the upstairs room, he could hear snippets of the confrontation downstairs. The arguing, the sharpness in Kirk's voice, the edge of fear in his mother's voice. At 12:21 a.m., Samantha sent her last text message to a close friend. The words were heartbreaking in their simplicity. "I'm scared." 3 words, a lifetime of meaning, and within minutes the nightmare began. From the upstairs room, Mark heard it, the unmistakable sound of his mother screaming, "No! Stop! Please!" Then gunshots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The house shook with the violence of it. The boy froze, terror coursing through him. He dialed 911 with trembling hands. 911, "What's your emergency?" "Mark, my stepdad shot my mom. Please, you have to come." The operator's voice tried to steady him, but nothing could calm the horror of what had just unfolded. By the time deputies arrived at 12:37 a.m., the house was eerily quiet. Samantha lay on the floor of her bedroom, lifeless. She had been shot multiple times, struck in the arm, the torso, and fatally in the head. The woman who had survived childhood cancer, rebuilt her life, raised for children, and helped so many others, was gone. But Kirk wasn't finished. When deputies stormed the home, they discovered the 46-year-old sheriff's deputy had turned his service weapon on himself. He lay on the bed, a gunshot wound to his head. The man sworn to protect had become the killer. 4 children were now orphans in an instant. Mark, the teenage boy who had tried to protect his mother. Peyton, Kirk's son, left to reconcile the father he thought he knew with the murderer he had become. And Olivia and Alan, too young to fully comprehend the nightmare that had stolen their parents. The dream home on Terrazzo Way was now a crime scene. The white walls splattered with evidence of violence, the silence broken only by the flashing lights of patrol cars and the muffled sobs of children.
Deputies murder-suicide that rocked the sheriff's office.
Yeah, new tonight, we're finding out about the desperate text messages. A woman sent her friend just moments before her husband, a Hillsborough County deputy, shot and killed her. ABC Action News reporter Eric Waxter live in Land O'Lakes right now with what we're now learning about this tragedy. Eric?
Yeah, what makes this even more difficult to really understand is 4 children were all home at the time of the shooting. The oldest, according to a family friend, a 14-year-old boy, actually crawled under the garage door and got out to call 911. According to her friend, Samantha Keithley sent text messages late last night about her husband's behavior. One text read, "Kirk has lost his mind, Kristen. He's literally losing it. He's been harassing me for the last 6 hours, and I've asked him repeatedly to just leave me alone because I'm sick."
I didn't open it until around 2 a.m., and then I texted her back this morning around 7, and it was too late.
In another text to her friend, Samantha wrote, "I just chucked my ring outside."
Kirk was a quiet person. When he drank, he came a little bit more alive, which was nice. He was a little bit more introverted, but I never suspected anything like this would ever happen.
The Pasco Sheriff's Office says Hillsborough Deputy Kirk Keithley shot and killed his wife, then did the same to himself. 4 children were inside the home when it happened.
It's devastating for that woman. Absolutely horrendous that she lost her life this way. But right now, we got to figure out how to help those kids.
Hillsborough Sheriff Chad Chronister says he cannot begin to express how disheartened he is over the murder-suicide involving one of his deputies. According to Samantha's Facebook page, she took her children to the Lightning Fan Fest just yesterday.
It's devastating, and sadly, I just feel for her kids and her babies, and, it was This is so tragic.
Samantha's friend also tells us the children are all with immediate family members right now. Fortunately, none of them were hurt.
In less than 10 minutes, the illusion of a perfect suburban family shattered, exposing a dark reality that had been hidden for years. And as investigators began piecing together what happened, the question echoed in the community. How could this happen? How could no one see it coming? The news broke before dawn. A deputy from the Pasco County Sheriff's Office had shot and killed his wife before turning the gun on himself. It was the kind of headline that shocks not just a town, but an entire state. In Land O'Lakes, neighbors woke up to blue and red lights still flashing down Terrazzo Way. Reporters gathered quickly, their cameras trained on the quiet suburban house that just hours earlier had been filled with screams. The Keithley home, once a picture of middle-class normalcy, was now sealed behind police tape. Inside, crime scene investigators worked meticulously. The details were harrowing. 6 spent shell casings. Samantha's phone on the nightstand, frozen with her final text still visible. The children's belongings, school books, toys, half-finished homework, left scattered, a haunting reminder of interrupted innocence. Everywhere investigators looked, they saw the same contrast. The warmth of a family home and the brutality of sudden violence. For Sheriff Chris Nacco, the call was both professional and personal. He stood before the cameras that morning, his face grim. "This is a tragedy on so many levels," he said. "Our hearts break for the children who now face a future without either parent." It was a painful paradox. The man sworn to uphold the law had used his badge, his weapon, and his authority to destroy the very people he was supposed to protect. Meanwhile, Samantha's children were thrust into a nightmare no child should ever face. In the span of minutes, they had lost their mother and father. Mark, just 14, carried the unbearable weight of being the one who had called 911. His voice, etched forever into the emergency recording, would become part of the case file, an echo of his mother's final moments. For Olivia and Alan, the youngest daughters, the world became suddenly, brutally confusing. Their mother was gone, their father was gone, and no explanation could ever make sense of it. As word spread, the community rallied. Neighbors placed flowers outside the Keithley home. Candles flickered in the Florida night as strangers and friends gathered for vigils. At one of those vigils, a family friend spoke through tears. Samantha was the kind of woman who always showed up for others. She deserved so much better than this. Her life was remembered not for the way it ended, but for the love she had poured into her children, her friends, and her community. But beneath the grief there were questions. Questions that lingered long after the patrol cars had left and the cameras turned off. Had there been warning signs? Did Kirk's colleagues at the sheriff's office notice changes in his behavior? Was Samantha's final text, "I'm scared," a last-minute realization, or the culmination of years of silent fear? For many, the answers were unclear. But one thing was certain. Samantha's death was not just a family tragedy. It was a public reckoning. Behind the statistics of domestic violence are real faces, real mothers, real children, and even those who wear the badge are not immune. Samantha's story forced an entire community, and law enforcement itself, to confront an uncomfortable truth, that danger can sometimes come from within, that the systems designed to protect can, if left unchecked, conceal abuse. Tragedies like this rarely happen without warning. Beneath the surface of what seemed to be an ordinary suburban marriage, there were signs, moments of control, anger, and fear that hinted at the storm brewing inside the Keithley home. Friends and neighbors described Kirk as friendly, outgoing, and the kind of guy you wouldn't expect this from. But behind closed doors, Samantha's reality was far different. Domestic abuse often begins quietly. It's not always bruises or shouting matches. Sometimes it's subtle, controlling what a partner wears, who they speak to, how they spend their time. Samantha's close friends later revealed that she had confided her worries. She spoke about Kirk's jealousy, his sharp temper, his need to always be in control. First, she brushed it off. After all, wasn't he just protective? Wasn't that a sign of love? But as time went on, that protectiveness grew suffocating. Kirk's job as a deputy sheriff gave him power, not just at work, but at home. He carried a gun, a badge, and the confidence that came with authority. For Samantha, this made leaving or even questioning him far more complicated. According to domestic violence experts, when an abuser holds a position in law enforcement, the danger escalates. The victim may feel trapped, fearing that no one will believe them, or worse, that speaking out could make the abuse even more dangerous. Samantha lived with this weight every day. Her children began to notice the tension, too. Raised voices behind closed doors. Long silences at the dinner table. The kind of atmosphere that makes even a child's laughter feel out of place. But like many mothers, Samantha tried to protect them from the truth. She smiled when she was tired. She played with them when her heart was heavy. And she reassured them that everything was fine, when deep down, she knew it wasn't. In the months before her death, Samantha reached out for help in small ways. She texted friends late at night. She hinted that she felt unsafe. One of her last messages, the one found on her phone the night she died, was chilling in its simplicity. "I'm scared." It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. But it carried the weight of years of fear that had gone unseen. Looking back, there were countless red flags. Isolation. Kirk discouraged Samantha from spending time with friends. Control. He monitored her phone, her social media, her movements. Threats. Subtle but clear reminders that he held the power in the relationship. These patterns, experts say, are the hallmarks of coercive control, a dangerous form of abuse that often escalates to violence. For those closest to Samantha, the guilt is overwhelming. They replay conversations, wondering if they missed something, if they could have done more. But the truth is, abuse thrives in silence. It hides behind closed doors, behind polite smiles at neighborhood barbecues, behind the uniform of a deputy sworn to protect. Samantha's story isn't just about one night of horror. It's about the countless nights that came before, the ones filled with quiet dread, whispered fears, and desperate hope that things might change. Samantha Keithley's story is not only about tragedy, but also about legacy, change, and remembrance. Her life and death forced both her community and law enforcement agencies to confront uncomfortable truths about domestic violence, about silence, and about the hidden battles many families face behind closed doors. After the murder-suicide, Samantha's 4 children became the center of attention. Overnight, they lost both parents, their protector and their nurturer. Her oldest son, Mark, who showed heroic courage by calling 911, carried scars no child should ever bear. His bravery, however, became a symbol of resilience. Her younger children were too young to fully grasp the scope of what happened, but the community made sure they were not alone. Fundraisers, GoFundMe campaigns, and community vigils provided financial and emotional support. In less than a month, nearly $80,000 was raised to help cover the children's future needs. It was proof that Samantha's story touched hearts far beyond her circle. Her murder was not isolated. Just months later, another Hillsborough County deputy, Terry Strawn, killed his wife, daughter, and granddaughter before taking his own life. These 2 cases, so close in time, shook Florida law enforcement to its core. For years, mental health within policing had been brushed aside, a stigma no officer wanted attached to their name. Samantha's case, followed by Strawn's, shattered that silence. The sheriff's office introduced a full-time psychologist on staff, a mandatory suicide prevention and domestic violence awareness training, emotional support dogs and chaplain programs, a behavioral resources unit, ensuring no officer would be left to struggle in silence. Though these changes came too late for Samantha, they may have already saved countless lives. Family and friends made it clear. Samantha should not be remembered for how she died, but for how she lived. Her Uncle Ted said it best at her funeral. "When you tell this story, and we want you to tell it, don't boil it down to her last few minutes. That's not what her life was about. Don't skip over the 18 million other minutes of joy, love, and laughter." Samantha was a mother who raised her children with love, a friend who encouraged women to leave abusive relationships, a professional who excelled in every career she touched. A fighter who faced loss early in life but turned her pain into strength. Her light still shines through her children, through the reforms sparked by her tragedy, and through every story told in her memory. Domestic violence is often hidden in plain sight. Friends, neighbors, even colleagues may see the warning signs but hesitate to act. Samantha's death is a reminder. Silence can be deadly. If you or someone you know is in danger, resources exist. National Domestic Violence Hotline. 1-800-799-7233. Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Dial 988. Help is out there. You are not alone. Samantha Keithley's story is not only about loss. It is about love, legacy, and the fight for change. Though her life was cut short, her spirit continues to protect others. And when we speak her name, we honor not the darkness of her final night, but the light she carried through every day of her 33 years.